President-elect Donald Trump has demanded the release of hostages taken during last year's Hamas-led October 7th attacks on Israel. Taking to Truth Social, he warned, without naming the militant group, that there would be, quote, hell to pay if the hostages were not released before his inauguration come January. Around 100 hostages are still being held in Gaza, and at least a third are believed to be dead. Meanwhile, Israel yesterday launched its largest wave of airstrikes across Lebanon since agreeing to a ceasefire with Hezbollah last week. At least 11 people were killed. Israel's military said it struck Hezbollah targets after the militant group launched 2 projectiles towards Israeli-held territory. Turning now to the situation nearby in Syria, the country's army and its allies are reported to have confronted an attack by forces affiliated with the Kurdish Syrian Democratic Forces in the north of the country. Now, this comes after rebel fighters over the weekend took control of most of Aleppo, the second largest city in the country. You're now looking at CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata to help us understand what just happened, Charlie. I mean, I know it's complicated and there's a lot of moving pieces, but bring our viewers up to speed as to how we're now seeing the Syrian civil war come into a new phase.
Yeah, Errol, this has everything to do with the conflicts in the region. This has been a simmering civil war for years, so why now? Let's call it a rebel alliance, right? They've been lying dormant for some time, occasionally launching the occasional attack, but regrouping and rearming. Now, 2 of Syria's main backers are embroiled in their own conflicts. You've got Russia and Ukraine. Not just its military focus shifted there, but manpower and firepower, I mean, recruiting North Koreans. Then you have Iran. Iran is not only engaged in its own regional conflict in Israel, where, by the way, officials tell me the last round of airstrikes caused some pretty serious damage to the air defenses there. But the United States has repeatedly struck Iranian-backed proxies in the last few months. But maybe the biggest part of this is Hezbollah itself, you know, backed by Iran, sent to Syria to prop up the regime. They're experienced fighters, and they've either had to return to Lebanon to fight for their own existence, or their leadership has just been decimated. And then there's Syria itself, right? Their troops have been badly supplied, clearly unprepared for an attack like this. So this is a target of opportunity. How successful have they been? Well, last time it took around 100 days for Aleppo to fall to rebels. They're not fully in control yet, but this time it took 48 hours.
What does this now mean for U.S. troops? I think there's some 900 stationed in Syria, considering some of the pieces are shifting and the alliances are changing as well.
Well, that's a very good point, Errol. And Pentagon officials have told me, first of all, the U.S. troops are mostly concentrated in the Northeast, which they say is a ways from where this is unfolding, so they're not exactly in the crossfire. They're there in an anti-ISIS mission called Operation Inherent Resolve. And I'm told the commander of that operation has opened a line of deconfliction, that's what it's called, with Russia that has been activated. Now, that happens whenever you have these 2 countries in close proximity to fighting, keeping those channels of communication open. Because you have Russian warplanes on bombing runs, there'll be U.S. Aircraft providing overwatch for those U.S. troops on the ground, because force protection is the top priority. So even though the United States has made patently clear we have nothing to do with this offensive, that's the National Security Council, this will cause destabilization, not least because, as you mentioned, America's main allies, right, the Kurdish SDF forces, they have been forced to withdraw from certain territories. And one faction of that rebel group is a Turkish militant group who are sworn enemies of the Kurds, or at least Kurdish militant elements within the SDF.
Fascinating to watch this unfold. Charlie, great to have your insight. Thanks for waking up with us this morning.
Thanks, Errol.